and welcome to Sports Mechanics.
We're your hosts, Grayson Danick,
Kylie Taylor, and Anna Bracco.
Today we're going to talk about a play 32 years ago. On November 18th, 1995, Joe Theismann's career ended after one bone-crushing hit.
The play was a flea flicker. Theismann handed the ball off to the running back, John Rickens, who then turned around and passed it back to Theismann. Before Theismann could throw the ball down the field, the Giants' defensive pass rushers were going for the sack. Pro Bowler and Hall of Fame linebacker Lawrence Taylor, LT, was the one who made the gruesome tackle.
The hit was so hard that his tibia and fibula in his right leg snapped in half. As the bones even pierced through the skin, Theismann now has a right leg that is shorter than his left leg because of this hit. Now let's take a look at this gruesome career-ending play and analyze all the factors that went into it.
But he knows he's in trouble. Lawrence Taylor, number 56, right there. Carson is number 53. But it's Taylor over Carson, slamming, and you see the right knee.
Oh no.
Hi, I'm Kine Taylor, and welcome to Sports Mechanics. Today, we're going to talk about two things. First, we're going to talk about Joe Theismann's career-ending injury 32 years ago, when Lawrence Taylor broke Joe Theismann's leg and everything snapped in half. Second, I'm going to show you the proper mechanics on how to throw a football. So, Joe Theismann's play was a flea flicker. He was trying to throw the ball far downfield to his wide receiver, Art Monk. When a quarterback throws the ball, your feet should be planted on the ground. Your knees should be bent a little, also known as knee flexion, and you should shift the weight from your back foot to your front foot. Especially when trying to throw the ball far downfield, you want your feet planted. This way, your hips and lower body can give you force and power to build up and throw the ball farther. So, you don't have to use all the force in your arms, you can use your whole body, and your ball will go much further. When Theismann received the ball back from his running back, the New York Giants had already read the play, so they knew exactly what was about to happen. When he was trying to get set to throw the ball, two New York Giants were behind him, so he had to run a little bit further down the field. When he got tackled, his legs were at more of a horizontal line rather than a vertical line. Theismann was trying to throw Lawrence Taylor off of his back. His front foot, left foot, was planted in the ground and was flexed at an ankle, but his back foot was not. His right leg was flexed at the knees, as well as his ankle being bent. So when Taylor brought him down, and Taylor's right knee hit the back of his lower right leg, everything snapped in half. Pretty disgusting. The force on his lower left leg was greater than the bone could take. Theismann broke his tibia and his fibula, which are the bones between your knees and your ankle. Last night, while watching the Pittsburgh Steelers vs. Green Bay Packer game, the announcer, Chris Collinsworth, said something that really got my attention. Quarterbacks today are starting to throw the ball with their feet, not planted on the ground fully, so they can get the ball off quicker, so the linemen and the defense tackles won't come rush them and sack them as quick. They're doing this because they don't want their feet to get rolled up on. But this is taking away from the power of having their hips set and having to throw the ball with more arm power. Is it worth it? Is it not? I guess that's for the quarterback to tell. Football is a really changing game. So I guess we'll just have to see where this takes us. Pretty soon, we might not even have quarterbacks at all. Just kidding, they're pretty important. Football is a contact sport, and injuries are going to happen. This play makes you wonder, what if it would have happened a second earlier? What if it would have happened a second later? Would the injury been as bad? 32 years later, sports medicine has progressed so much, with developments popping up every day. Kevin Ware, former basketball player for the University of Louisville, got hurt in an Elite Eight game. His fibula broke the skin and protruded out of his body. He now plays professional basketball overseas in Greece. What if this would have happened to Joe Theismann today? Would sports medicine have been advanced enough to keep him still playing, or would his career ended like it did today? That's something we'll never know. Thank you for listening, and now I'm going to show you how to throw a football. Have a great day.
Hi, and welcome back to Sports Mechanics. I'm Kylie Taylor. I'm going to show you the 3 easy techniques to remember on how to properly throw a football. Number 1, you want your feet planted firmly on the ground. Putting your feet firmly on the ground gives you a good base of support. Number 2, you want to bend your knees. Bending your knees gives you flexibility. Number 3, you want to shift the weight from the back of your body to the front of your body. Doing this gives you more momentum and will make you throw the ball with more power and force. When Joe Theismann had his bone-crushing injury, he was on the move, so his legs were not planted firmly on the ground. As he was trying to throw the ball, he ducked the ball under, but by doing this, all of his body weight was going forward. So this is how you properly throw a football. Instead, Joe Theismann was going more like this when he threw the football, and all of the weight got hit from behind, and that's why he got so hurt. Now, this is how you properly throw a football. Thanks for watching Sports Mechanics. I'm Kylie Taylor. Have a great day.
Hi Sports Mechanics viewers, my name is Anna Bracco, and today I will be discussing the forces that were present in the Joe Theismann hit that you just saw. Now, what forces am I talking about? No, not the forces in Star Wars, but the gravitational, normal, frictional, and applied forces. Let me break it down for you all. The first force on Joe Theismann is gravitational force. Here, gravitational forces are being directed downward because gravity is pulling you to the center of the earth. Meaning, gravitational forces is the weight of the object, and the force of gravity on earth is always equal to the weight of the object. So what this means is the weight of Joe Theismann is gravitational force, and gravity here equals Theismann's weight. Theismann also has Lawrence Taylor jumping on top of him, and since Taylor jumps in the air, what comes up must come down, and Taylor lands on top of Theismann. So, not only does Theismann have his own weight acting as a gravitational force, he also has Taylor's weight acting as a gravitational force. The next force we have is normal force. Normal force is considered a support force. It is the force exerted upon an object that's in contact with the stable object. Here, the stable object is the ground or the football field. Normal force is being exerted upwards into the feet of Theismann and Taylor. The third force we have is frictional force. Before we dive into what frictional force is, we must first know what friction is. Friction results from the two surfaces being pressed together closely, causing intermolecular attractive forces between molecules of different surfaces. Friction depends upon the nature of the two surfaces and upon the degree to which they are pressed together. So frictional force is the force exerted by a surface as an object moves across it or makes an effort to move across it. There is frictional force being exerted from Taylor to Theismann as he jumps on top of Theismann. Not only is Taylor jumping on top of Theismann to pull him down, he is also making an effort to jump on top of him. This is therefore frictional force. Next we have applied force. Applied force is a force that is applied to an object by a person or another object. Since Lawrence Taylor is jumping on top of Joe Theismann to stop him from throwing the ball, there is applied force being acted on Theismann. Now let's put it all together. Gravitational force is being exerted downwards on both Theismann and Taylor. Normal force is being exerted upward on Taylor and Theismann's feet. Frictional force is being exerted towards Theismann as Taylor comes into contact with him and tries to bring Theismann to the ground. Applied force is being exerted when Taylor jumps on top of Theismann to stop the throw of the football. When Lawrence Taylor hit Joe Theismann, all of these forces came together and were exerted upon Theismann, causing a domino effect and in turn causing an injury to Theismann that ended his career. Maybe if Taylor or Theismann had been a few seconds slower or faster, there would not have been as much force exerted on Theismann, causing Taylor to miss Theismann or causing a much smaller injury to Theismann.
Hey guys, it's Grayson, and for my segment of the show, I'm going to further explain the biomechanics of what happened during the injury, the rehab Joe Theismann had to complete, and the post-life for the former NFL player, and LT as well. In order to fully break down the biomechanics of the injury, we take an insider qualitative and quantitative look at the motion to further explain the performance. Now there are 4 kinematic variables of motion: position, displacement, velocity, and acceleration. Being a 6'3", 237-pound linebacker, Lawrence Taylor, LT, demanded the attention of a massive defensive end, obviously. The amount of energy is what we'll look at first. In order to quickly accelerate, LT's power was supplied as a derivative of work and energy. Power simply being that
the rate at which work is done, LT's power stems from its professional ability to accelerate with great forces, especially in short spurts. LT's ground reaction force is the cause of his locomotion, which was discussed earlier. Obviously, with the intense weight, locomotion, and forces acting positively on LT, Joseph Theismann ended up with the short end of the stick, causing his career in the NFL to end drastically. The injury consisted of both Theismann's lower leg bones to snap in half and pierce through the skin, as well as several ligaments in the knee and ankle to be broken. Even though the doctors nowadays are good and a lot of professional players are able to return, this type of injury is almost impossible to remain the same from. To put into perspective on how much rehab and time this injury needed to heal, one should know that just fracturing the lower leg bones, so not piercing the skin and not breaking the rest of the ligaments, takes just up to 6 weeks to heal. And again, that's not the major point of Theismann's injuries. Theismann had to undergo surgery to repair torn ligaments and put bones back toward the direction they should go initially. So let's just say he did not only further return to the season, but for the rest of his career he was out. We also have to take into account another former Giants defensive end, Gary Reasons, was in on the action. Not only did LT have an impact on Theismann, but number 55, Gary Reasons, jumped up and landed on top of LT, who was obviously already crushing Theismann's leg at this point. So the two on top of Joe Theismann, not good for Theismann's leg. Everyone around the injury at the time immediately knew of Joe Theismann's status and quickly called the athletic training staff on the sidelines into the action. Just by looking at the abnormal curvature of Theismann's leg, every doctor on the field knew it would be dealt with only surgically. The role of the athletic trainers at this time was to move the broken player as gently as possible onto the stretcher, but as quickly as possible and off the field. Now, surgery was to come first, then months of recovery, followed by healing and physical therapy just to regain motion in his leg, not only stability he needed to walk and stand. Now, I don't think everyone realizes that when we say physical therapy, it's not an easy thing. Even though, I guess, professional athletes make it look easy, it's not. Today, Theismann is able to walk, and other than a few inches off the previously injured leg, is back to normal, but that wouldn't be without starting to have a slight movement in the toes at first, then slight movement in the foot and ankle joints, and then a PT's help to regain stability with not only the leg, but being able to stand on the leg and working on walking. The funny thing is, several reports of LT and Theismann state that they not only don't have any beef about the injury because they both know that's the name of the game, but the two have been seen together, and I wouldn't say they're best friends, but definitely at several NFL events reconnecting.
Hi, and welcome back to Sports Mechanics. I hope you enjoyed the episode from today. Now we're going to give a quick recap of everything that was taught. Grace.
Okay, well, in my younger days when I studied athletic training in college, I did learn several facts, and with this review, we learned that immediate attention was necessary for Joe Theismann, and the way that they brought him off the field was probably best on a spine board, not moving anything in the leg, and surgery was the immediate thing that needed to happen first. What were the biomechanics that caused this injury, Anna?
Hello. So, as a previous exercise physiologist, I learned a lot in college about physics and biomechanics, and from what I saw, and with lots of research, there were 4 forces used in the hit on Joe Theismann. We have gravitational force, normal force, applied force, and frictional force. Gravitational force was exerted downward onto Joe Theismann and Taylor, pulling them to the center of the earth. Applied force was applied, obviously, on Joe Theismann from Taylor, and then frictional force was also exerted on Theismann from Taylor. And then we also had normal force was exerted upwards from the ground, which kept them stable. And that's what we learned from physics and biomechanics. And Kylie, I really enjoyed your segment on how to throw a football.
That
I
was
learned a
very
lot.
interesting.
You want to elaborate more?
Okay, back before knee problems and back problems in my younger days when I was a physical education teacher, I taught my kids all the time on how to properly throw a football. Step number 1 on how to throw a football is you want your feet planted firmly on the ground. So can you guys plant your feet firmly on the ground? Second, you want to bend your knees. Having your knees bent makes you not so stiff. And thirdly, you want to shift your weight from the back of your body to the front of your body.
Got it.
By me teaching my kids this, it reduced injuries and also would make them not get hurt like Joe Theismann. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Sports Mechanics. I'm Kylie Taylor.
I'm Grayson Danek.
And I'm Anna Bracco.
Bye! Damn, we're good.
Action. Hello. Go see.